Kia ora, good evening. Water restrictions are to be lifted in Invercargill and Bluff, but will remain in place for Gore residents. City Council will lift hosing restrictions in Invercargill and Bluff from tomorrow. Water Manager Alistair Murray says while the Ariti River is still below normal for this time of year, it's now risen above the level where hosing restrictions had to be enforced. Restrictions in the city have been in place for 5 weeks. He says it's unlikely hosing restrictions would need to be imposed again this season. The Gore district remains under a total hosing ban with no rain in the area. Emergency services were called to a bus crash on State Highway 94 near Te Anau this afternoon. The incident happened just after 2 when the driver of a Trusty Tours tourist bus carrying 24 passengers took evasive action to avoid a car turning into a campsite near Nobbs Flat. 2 people suffered minor injuries in the incident. Both vehicles were travelling to Te Anau at the time. Meanwhile, in Invercargill, a 22-year-old man was taken to hospital with serious injuries caused by a knife this morning. Police say no one else was involved in the incident at the Alliance Norville plant. He was expected to undergo surgery at Southland Hospital. The price of petrol could soon fall below $2 a litre, with another drop at the pumps today. Petrol prices fell 3 cents a litre today and diesel fell 2 cents, the 7th price cut in 6 weeks. The price of regular petrol is now around $2.05 and diesel's $1.42. AA Petrol Watch spokesman Mark Stockdale says there's room for fuel companies to move another 4 or 5 cents. He says at current trends there is a good chance the price of regular petrol will fall just below $2 a litre soon, the first time since mid-2012. Old television sets are being collected for recycling in the south through a TV program making an environmental difference. The Ministry for the Environment is hoping the TV Take Back campaign will divert 500,000 TVs from going to landfill as the country prepares for digital switchover. A subsidised recycling program has been rolled out around the country in a bid to reduce the number of televisions going to landfill. Around 500,000 sets are expected to be recycled as people move toward new equipment ahead of digital switchover. In Southland, those TVs are being recycled at Southland Disability Enterprises, and General Manager Ian Becker says hundreds of people are using the recycling scheme.
The KPI from TESAM is 444 a week. We're aiming for 500 a week. We'll see in the future whether we achieve that.
People pay $5 for their televisions to be recycled with collection points around the region. Recycling itself began on Monday, and Mr Becker says he's hoping within 3 weeks 100 a day can be recycled. He says the contract has created an opportunity for skills development with staff.
There's new skills, new tools. People are learning to use electric drills or battery drills, learning how to cut and to differentiate.
TVs contain materials like lead and barium that are toxic to the environment and health. Staff are taking precautions against the hazards.
Well, yes, it can be dangerous. We've got a drill in place, so if a tube is broken, everyone immediately dons face masks, and they keep them on until we've satisfied that we've cleaned the air of the lead, dust and the phosphorus. You can get electric shock on these TVs if you don't cut a main cable right at the start, and people learn very quickly when you get a little bit of a tingle going up your arm.
Once hazardous components are removed, recyclable products can be sold.
Well, we get electric cables, 2 different grades. We're getting steel, we're getting the yokes, which is mainly copper, and the BFR plastics. We're not sure whether we're going to be able to sell them or whether we're going to have to pay to dispose of them. Under the Basel Convention, it's a hazardous plastic and it can't be exported anymore overseas like we used to do. The tubes will then go to Auckland, they'll get then separated. The lead glass are then going to Australia to get the lead extracted out of it.
Around 0.5 kilogram of material out of an average set is not recyclable. Mr Becker says the contract is short-term. Just over 1,500 sets from Invercargill and Bluff can be recycled through the subsidised scheme. Those who want to recycle sets after that will face a bigger bill. Margot Sutherland, South Today News. After the break, a mixed bag for the southern region in how healthy people really are. Welcome back. Southlanders are among the most physically active people in New Zealand. Close to 66% of people over 15 in the southern DHB area, which covers Southland and Otago, are physically active, compared with just over 54% nationally. That's according to the Ministry of Health's 2011 to 12 health survey, which also shows more than 88% of the southern region believe they have excellent or very good health. This compares with more than 89% nationally. It's not all good news, however, with the southern DHB showing the highest number of daily smokers and people partaking in hazardous drinking in the areas surveyed. The Clifton Suspension Bridge will soon reopen to the public after being closed for more than 2 years. Repairs are underway on the historic bridge and are expected to be completed by the end of May. Built in 1899, the bridge is one of the oldest remaining wooden bridges, and work will cost close to $400,000. The structure was added to the New Zealand Historic Places Trust register as a Category 1 historic place in 1990. It was closed in 2010 due to safety concerns. Historic Places Trust Regional Manager Paul McGann says the bridge is very important.
This bridge is really important because of its industrial and engineering values from a heritage point of view. It's built in 1899, so it's one of the oldest remaining wooden bridges, and in fact the length of the span, 111.5 metres, that makes it significant as well. But it was really important to the community in Southland at the time because the expansion was happening and people needed to get across the Waiau safely and to increase farming in the area. So it's got a lot of historical value, but also a lot of heritage, industrial and engineering value.
It's hoped a free public emergency alerting service which sends automatic messages via mobile and email could help save lives. Dunedin company Alert Info has developed an electronic warning system which gives subscribers information about impending dangers and emergency updates following events such as earthquakes or tsunami. The company's been working with emergency organisations, and Director Stuart Gunn says he hopes to get endorsement from Emergency Management Southland. Work on the system began a decade ago and sees local information sent to subscribers via text or email.
We get our information from Civil Defence. We work very closely with several branches of Civil Defence New Zealand. Police, weather, we use Weather Watch in Auckland for a lot of our information, and the Met Service. We gather information from councils, from the public health sector. So whenever information comes through from any of those sources, we evaluate it, see if it's urgent or whether it needs to be sent out to people. As an example, public health notices on toxic shellfish poisoning. We sent messages out on that because we know up in the Bay of Plenty people gather shellfish. So we get that information, send it out, and then if there's an update of something getting worse, we'll update that alert as well. But we generally don't follow on to say all's clear unless it's something like a major road being closed for a while and then reopened.
So how did this concept come about?
It was thought of about 10 years ago and it was presented to a couple of governments at the time, and they sort of liked the idea but couldn't see it really working. And initially we decided, well, the public deserved to be informed, so we looked at a business model and looked at it from a commercial point of view. And after it had been partway through design, we thought, well, it's better to send it out as a free service, a public service, and gather as much information as we can from all these different sources, because at that point no one was doing anything like that. Currently we are the only ones doing this sort of service, and we're the only ones able to do it because we're covered by a patent, but it's more for keeping control in the situation so that cowboy organisations don't come in and sidetrack the whole process and start causing confusion in the marketplace.
Raised on a dirt-floored shack in Ruatoria with 10 siblings, the 2012 Kiwibank Local Hero of the Year says there was every reason to fail, to abuse or become abusive. But with nature as his playground and boundless araha within the whānau, he says his childhood was absolutely euphoric. I spoke to Hirane O'Keefe about his commitment to combating family violence.
We've fostered over 200 children over a period of 14, 15 years, and the great majority of them come from violent homes. You know, they live in a home which is frequented by Jake the Muss, And so when you see these beautiful shining jewels come forth, and then you realise, you know, they've been bashed and smashed and told they're hopeless, they're useless, they're gutless. And I thought, no way, not on my watch. You know, not on my watch. I'll fight to the death with these kids.
How is our country getting it so wrong that there are that many out there in that situation?
Well, there are many things that contribute to it. You could say poverty. We're having children too young. You've got children having children. Whilst their biological clock may be ready to tick and the testosterone is bouncing all over the place, but mentally and emotionally and experience-wise, they're just not ready. It's bad enough for seasoned veterans such as, it's difficult enough with seasoned veterans such as my wife and I, with two parents. But I think, I don't know what the percentage is, over 40% of our homes are one-parent families. So that doesn't help. You know, all those things contribute.
What are you doing that other people could be doing or should be doing?
Well, it's not rocket science, honestly. You know, people come to me, they give me these awards, and I'm thinking, but why? We should be doing this anyway. Why should you reward me for doing what I should be doing, being a good parent? You know, I haven't got a cure for cancer, I haven't got a cure for leukemia. I'm just doing what every parent should do.
You've been a social worker, you've worked with youth justice, you're a JP, you're a counsellor. What do you see as your greatest achievement to date?
I would suggest that, I know it sounds like an old cliche, but when I married my wife at 18 years old, and I'm 60 now, so you do the mathematics, and we brought those two constitutions together. And, you know, without exaggerating our status, on our own we're quite formidable, but together we're invincible. And we've just, again, without exaggerating us, we've just done so many stunning things which will impact this country long after we're gone.
And that's it from news. Coming up in sport, the first part of our two-part interview with South African boxer Francois Botha from the news team. Good night.